guys, it's Casey, and today we're going to talk about my January TBR. So I'm going to start doing my TBRs a little bit differently. So in 2020, what I did was I gave myself 4 challenges every month that were the same every single month, and I just kind of had to slot books in, and then any others I read could be whatever I want. But for 2021, I think I want to change things a little bit, because what I noticed was the ones for my challenges tended to be the ones that I was not looking forward to reading nearly as much as the other ones. So I've changed things up. So instead what I've done is I've made a table of 100 different prompts, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll some dice to figure out what I'm going to read. So my Goodreads reading goal for 2021 is going to be 75 books. So my plan is to roll 6 times every month and then slot in whatever books I want for each slot. And that will keep me on track for my Goodreads goal. However, most months I do read more than 6 books, so I can still kind of fill in whatever I want for the rest. But let's go ahead and start rolling.
Okay, so normally I'd have my dice box, but I forgot it, but let's go ahead and do the first roll. $77.
So the first roll I got was 77, which is a humorous book. So this doesn't have to be a humor book, but just a book that I think will be funny. And for that, I picked a new one for me, which is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. So this is a high fantasy that is based on the idea of like getting the band back together. It's all these old retired adventurers essentially who have to work together to get back, I think, one of their missing daughters or something like that. And they've all kind of working together to accomplish this. I've heard that this is a very funny book. It's structured a lot like a D&D campaign, and I know that all of the characters are based off of different roles in like 70s rock band. So like you have the stereotypical personality of like the lead singer and the bassist and the drummer. And I've just heard a ton of great things about this book, and I've heard that it's a very fun, funny time. So this is what I picked for that one.
Second roll. 61.
Next I rolled 61, which is Non-Human Characters. And for that I'm going to be reading The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. So this is the Ship of Magic, but I don't have Mad Ship with me, so like, just pretend. So The Mad Ship is the second book in the Live Ship Traders series, which is part of Robin Hobb's greater realm of the Elderlings. So in this world, if a ship is made of this special wood and 3 generations of your family die aboard it, the ship actually turns into what is called a live ship and literally becomes alive. It becomes a sentient talking being. So these books sort of follow this family and different members of that family as they've kind of come into this live ship. So there are several non-human characters in this series, but the main one is gonna be the ships.
Roll number 3. 77. Okay.
So the next roll was 77 again. So that is, again, a humorous book, and I didn't have another funny fantasy book on my TBR ready to go. So for this, I'm going to be listening to the audiobook of Bossy Pants by Tina Fey. So I don't know a huge amount about this other than that it is a memoir by Tina Fey, who is somebody that I think is very funny, and I've heard great things about this. I got the audiobook from the library, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I know my roommate read it and really enjoyed it, so that's about all I have to say about that one. It should be really funny. I like listening to memoirs on audiobooks, so it should be a good time.
Number 4. 64. I'm starting to wonder if these dice are weighted.
Next I rolled number 64, which is Gods. And so for that I've picked The Wicked and the Divine. So I've read, I think, the first 2 volumes of this multiple times, but it's been several years and I've just picked up volumes 3 and 4. So I think for this TBR I'm gonna put volume 1 on it since I can't remember exactly what happens in that, but I might read multiple volumes of it this month. So The Wicked and the Divine is about this idea that gods come back to Earth every once in a while. I want to say 100 years, but I'm really not sure. And they look for worshippers. But now in the modern day, no one is worshiping these ancient gods as much. So they're coming back as pop stars, rock stars, famous people, because those are the people that we worship. And it kind of follows this like war between these gods. And it's got a really cool art style. And I'm really looking forward to diving back into this series now that I have a little bit further to go, because I think I have up through volume 5 now.
Number 5. 45.
Next I rolled 45, which is urban fantasy, and this was the perfect opportunity for me to slip in my monthly Dresden book. So for that I'm going to be reading Cold Days by Jim Butcher. So Cold Days is the 14th book to the Dresden Files, which I've been reading since I think last June or July at this point. Dresden Files is obviously an urban fantasy series that follows Wizard for Hire Harry Dresden as he works as a private investigator for the Chicago Police Department and as a freelancer to solve all kinds of crimes that may have been perpetrated by supernatural entities or have some sort of magical element to them. That is the pitch I give every time I introduce this series, but at this point, we're 14 books in, it has grown so far beyond that, and I'm so excited to see where we go. I'm actually gonna catch up and have to start waiting for the final ones to come out, which makes me so sad. I've been listening to the audiobooks for the Dresden Files because they're narrated by James Marsters and they're really well done and I absolutely adore them. So I will be progressing with the series and reading that this month, and we're catching up. We're getting to the end and it makes me so sad.
And last roll. 85.
And the last roll I got 86, which is a fairy tale or a fairy tale retelling, and for that I'm going to be reading Uprooted by Naomi Novik. So Uprooted is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and that's about all I know about it. I know that Uprooted and Spinning Silver, both by Naomi Novik, were published relatively close together, and they're both like fantasy standalones that are retellings of fairy tales. And I know that they've gotten a lot of positive response, but I don't actually know much about the plot other than that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And that's kind of as much as I want to know going into it. Already knowing it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I know kind of some of the story beats that are coming, but I also know that Naomi Novik twists those kinds of things, so it'll be different than what I'm expecting, so I don't want to know what some of those twists might be before going in. That makes any sense. But those are my 6 rolls, so those are the books I have to read this month. However, there are a ton of books that I just want to read that aren't on this list. But as you'll see in my haul, which I think is the next video I'm putting up, I got a ton of books for Christmas that I'm so very excited about, so the urge to just go through that stack is very high, so I will probably end up reading some things that you see in that video next month as well. But I think that's all I've got for you guys. If you like this way of doing TBRs, let me know. I think I'm gonna stick with this for this year. I'm gonna keep track of how many times I roll each number and whether or not I actually enjoyed the prompts and stuff and maybe tweak it a little bit, but for now I think that's what I'm gonna go with. So if you want to keep up with what I'm reading, I have a link to my Goodreads down in the description below, but other than that, I'll see you guys next time.